go over Kim Clement. Kim Clement is somebody who has passed away already. He passed away in like 2015, 2016. And he prophesied certain events transpiring during the year 2025, beginning in July. So we're here now, so we might as well take a look at this. And it's interesting that he found these things to be likely events to take place during this time of Uranus going into Gemini, and also during this time where Saturn and Neptune go 0 degrees of Aries or 2 degrees of Aries during July, but then again later on in 2026. So Kim Clement's prophecies, I do believe, begin in July and they extend to outward, maybe like to Agenda 2032 or something like that. But let's go ahead and take a look at what this conversation with Grok was. And um, I am just reading this for the first time with you guys. So, anyways, I asked Grok last night, and I just kind of turned the computer off after that because I was figuring I'd go over this with y'all. Kim Clement prophesied of major events taking place during 2025. Can you tell me which ones they were? Oh, thank goodness. I've got my tea here. Also, did he mention anything about money shifts, for example, new money coming online as people are suddenly more wealthy than they were before? Now, I asked that question because Nasara Jasara, not specifically because of crypto, but also, yes, because of crypto, because there's going to be a lot of crypto, people and then it's going to be other things as well. By the way, not financial advice, but I think that the idea is to get out of assets, get out of liquid assets at some point and diversify into things that you can trade, useful things like cars, watches, possibly if you're, in luxury, but like if times are luxurious or whatever. But yeah, useful things, tractors, cars, land, things like that. I want to watch. Kim Clement, a prophetic voice known for his detailed predictions, made several prophecies about events expected to unfold in 2025, as well as earlier years that continue to resonate. Below, I'll outline the major events he prophesied for 2025 based on available information, focusing on spiritual, political, and economic shifts. Oh, he did predict like a revival, like a great awakening revival, spiritually. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's going to be like dictatorial spiritual awakening where people are like militant because there's a difference. I'm just looking at the previous instances in which Uranus goes into Gemini and there is wars associated with that, revolutionary, civil, World War II. So is it a unified thought, thought of mind, state of mind, and people are kind of hoodwinked into believing a specific religious ideology, whereas they're kind of becoming closed-minded? That's one thing to keep in mind. And political and economic shifts, and specifically address his mentions of money shifts. Oh, he did. Okay. Including the concept of new wealth or financial changes. Interesting. Since the resources reference prophecies from various years, I'll clarify their relevance to 2025 and provide context where needed. Major events prophesied by Kim Clement for 2025. I should broaden the scope and say any prophecies beyond 2025 ? So we'll do that later. Kim Clement's prophecies often carried a broad timeline, and several from 2004 to 2015 are interpreted as applying to 2025. particularly due to their connection to political, spiritual, and economic shifts in America and beyond. Here are the key events tied to 2025 based on provided sources. Spiritual revival and shift in the White House. Interesting. Okay. So that's kind of I don't know. We'll see. Prophecy in 2020 in a July 2020 in a July 25th, 2015 prophecy, Kim Clement spoke of a significant spiritual change in the White House where the Spirit of the Lord, quote unquote, would bring a shifting revival, quote unquote, to the nation. He foresaw worship gatherings and high-level advisors seeking God in prayer, signaling a move toward righteousness and divine guidance and in leadership. That we've seen pictures of Trump with a bunch of religious figures, and we've also seen 3 of those religious figures in the group photos who are crooks. So his prophecies could have seen these things, but they could have also not been 100% true, real, accurate. He's just looking at the things that are happening. So anyways, 2025 relevance. This prophecy is seen as unfolding with Donald Trump's second term beginning January 2025. The creation of a faith office and gatherings of spiritual leaders in the White House are cited as markers of this revival. Clement's vision suggests a broader spiritual awakening with worship and intercession rising from Washington, D.C., impacting the nation's spiritual climate. Restoration and deliverance from debt. Prophecy. On September 5th, 2015, Clement prophesied a death to debt, describing a time of jubilee where financial burdens would be lifted, reminiscent of the Israelites under Moses who had no need for new provisions due to divine renewal. He declared, God says today, you have the power to break the power of debt. For there shall surely be a death to debt, says the Lord. Relevance. This is tied to 2025 through initiatives like the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, led by figures like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, focusing on cutting wasteful spending and rooting out fraud. Clement's vision of abundant offerings where Moses had to stop them from giving aligns with expectations of financial reforms and prosperity. That's interesting. Energy independence and natural phenomenon. Prophecy. Clement frequently spoke of energy shifts, particularly America's move toward energy independence. In a prophecy discussed by his daughter, Dawn Clement Petruska, he predicted an abundance of oil, allowing the United States to reduce reliance on OPEC. He also mentioned 2 great E's, earthquakes and eruptions, as divine signs of change. Well, we've had earthquakes, and we are also having, the mile-wide earthquake, the mile-wide volcano under the ocean in the Ring of Fire area that's west of Seattle or San Francisco in the Northwest Pacific area. So, and also we have Yellowstone. We have other volcanoes that are going off right now. It's very volcanically active right now. Okay. As divine signs of change, though their damage would be less than anticipated. Interesting. Yeah. It's like, these things are going off, but they're not really that big of a deal. 2025 relevance. These prophecies are seen as relevant in 2025 with discussions of energy independence in geological events gaining attention. The mention of scorched earth and natural phenomenon like volcanoes aligns with global shifts. Though Clement emphasized this as a sign, Clement emphasized these as signs of divine intervention rather than destruction. End time revival with four faces of Christ. Interesting. Prophecy in 1997, Clement described an end time revival marked by the four faces of Christ: man, lion, ox, eagle. Let me just, we're going to go here, end time faces of Christ, and ox, what is this? This is Ezekiel. Human, lion, ox, and oh my gosh. I was studying Ezekiel 1 through 4, and this is the UFO that they saw. Crazy. Four faces of Christ. So we might be seeing UFOs. Holy moly, y'all. Okay. Symbolizing oh my gosh. Multi-dimensional manifestations of God's kingdom. This revival would involve miracles, signs, and wonders spilling into streets, campuses, businesses, and government offices with an Elijah voice, leading people back to purpose. Relevance interpreted as ongoing in 2025, this prophecy points to a widespread spiritual awakening with America's divine purpose being resurrected. Clement's focus on Christ's exaltation in public spheres, including the White House, ties to the spiritual shifts mentioned above. Interesting. Victory for Israel and global shifts. Interesting. Victory for Israel. Huh. Prophecy in an August 30th, 2014 prophecy, Clement spoke of a tide turning for Israel, with enemies like Syria and others becoming less hostile for a season. He also predicted a 5-year-long period of amazing grace, starting in September of that year, extending to 2019, but with lingering effects. 2025 relevance. This is seen as relevant in 2025 due to the ongoing Middle East tensions and America's support for Israel. Clement's mention of rain coming to America and God's kingdom suggests blessings tied to spiritual and geopolitical alignment. Cultural and moral restoration. Prophecy. On February 27th and April 3rd, 2010, Clement prophesied about a serpent in the White House, betrayal within leadership, being overcome and returned to America's Judeo-Christian roots, specifically through the reintroduction of the Ten Commandments in schools. Holy moly. Relevance. We can skip the relevance. Prophecies about money shifts and new wealth. Clement's prophecies explicitly addressed financial shifts, including the concept of sudden wealth or systemic changes in money. Here are the specific mentions relevant to your question about new money coming online and people becoming wealthier. Death to debt and jubilee. This coincides with the Trump racking up debt before crashing the fiat system, by the way. Because if the fiat system crashes, then debt is gone. Possibly even like mortgage. I don't know. Details. In his September 5th, 2015 prophecy, Clement spoke of a time of jubilee where debt would be canceled and people would experience financial freedom. He described a state of renewal where they had no need whatsoever, likening to the Israelites under Moses. He prophesied, "This nation shall enter into a period where they shall hear those words coming from the holy generation, from the chosen generation, from the royal priesthood, death to debt, death to debt." Death to debt. Interesting. That was his quote unquote like thing. Um, Interpretation for wealth. This suggests a systemic shifts where individuals and nations could experience sudden financial relief, potentially through debt forgiveness or economic reforms. The reference to abundant offerings, Moses had to stop them from giving, implies a surplus of wealth where people have more than enough, aligning with the idea of sudden wealth. 2025 context. The focus on Trump, Musk, and Doge's efforts to curb government's waste is seen as a step toward this financial renewal, potentially creating conditions for economic prosperity. Banking and stock market miracle. Details. In 2005 prophecy, Clement predicted a miracle, quote unquote, in banking and the stock market exchange during August, September, and October, stating, oh my gosh. So we're 1 month away. And it's going to be in banking, the stock market, in banking and the stock exchange. August, September, October. Okay. We're going to have to revisit this multiple times just so we can kind of tie this into the big picture. A miracle shall happen in the banking and stock exchange. Look to the months of August, September, and October. Watch the oil, for God says, go high, high. It's gone high, 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 lower, lower, lower. But God says he's playing a yo-yo game with you. Wow. Interpretation for wealth. This prosperity points to a significant financial event that could stabilize or boost markets, potentially leading to wealth creation. This could be war, y'all. I think war is good for the stock markets too. The yo-yo game, quote unquote, with oil prices suggests volatility but divine control, possibly resulting in economic opportunities for individuals. While not explicitly saying new money coming online, quote unquote, the idea of a banking miracle could imply new financial systems or wealth distribution mechanisms. 2025 context. The U.S. stock market declines in 2024 and ongoing energy policy shifts, for example, toward American energy independence, are seen as aligning with this prophecy, potentially setting the stage for wealth increase in 2025. Asset-backed currency and Iraqi dinar. Bro, I did not say anything about this. I didn't say anything. Details in a podcast with Kim Clement, with Don Clement Petruska. Clement's prophecy about the Iraqi dinar was highlighted, suggesting it would be the first functional currency to convert to an asset-backed system. This aligns with a broader shift from fiat money, debt-based, to asset-backed currency, symbolizing a biblical year of jubilee where debts are canceled. Hot tamale. Y'all, if you know anything about this, I haven't read about this, but I've been keeping that on the DL a little bit because I don't want to be targeted or whatever, but this is a big deal. So we can go into detail about that, but it's a big, giant deal. Holy moly. Interpretation for wealth. The shift to asset-backed currency could lead to a revaluation of certain currencies like the Iraqi dinar, potentially making investors or holders of such currencies suddenly wealthier. This directly addresses your question about new money coming online. I was mostly, well, I don't know. Interesting. And people becoming wealthier than before, as a currency revaluation could create significant financial gains for individuals. Hot tamale, y'all. 2025 context. When did he say this? Don Clement Petruska, Clement's in a podcast, Clement's prophecy about the IQD was highlighted, suggesting it would be the functional currency to convert, the first functional currency to convert to an asset-backed system. Whew, I'm shocked. 2025 context, the podcast frames this as imminent in 2025 with the IQD revaluation tied to God's plan for economic freedom, reflecting to a seismic change in the financial system. I could cry right now. Y'all, not financial advice, but that's the best ICO on the planet. Financial break in the system. Details. On July 18, 2015, Clement spoke of a financial break in the system, emphasizing a prophetic sound in the youth that would contribute to this shift. He urged listeners to pay attention as many dismiss such prophecies but risk missing divine opportunities. I think that sounds like crypto. Interpretation for wealth. This break suggests a disruption in the current financial system, potentially introducing new mechanisms for wealth creation or distribution. While not explicitly about sudden wealth, it implies a restructuring that could benefit those aligned with the prophetic vision, possibly through economic policies or opportunities. I think that's crypto. This not financial advice. This is linked to 2025 through the lens of ongoing economic reforms and the push for transparency and efficiency as seen with Doge's initiatives. Critical analysis and limitations. Vague timelines. Clement's prophecies often lack specific dates, and their application to 2025 is based on interpretations by his followers, particularly through Charisma magazine and the House of Destiny. Events like Trump's second term and Doge's financial reforms are seen as fulfillments, but these connections are speculative and depend on ongoing developments. Okay, I get that. Economic specificity. Sorry, I need a drink. Economic specificity. While Clement's prophecies about debt cancellation and currency shifts, for example, Iraqi dinar, y'all, the United States government holds 35 billion in Iraqi dinar. Donald Trump holds 17 million Iraqi dinar. Don't tell me that it's not possible for the debt in the country to be wiped out if the Iraqi dinar revalues, because it's worth nothing right now. They align with your question about sudden wealth. They are not detailed enough to confirm specific mechanisms like new money systems coming online. The Iraqi dinar prophecy is particularly speculative, as currency revaluation is a complex economic event with no guaranteed outcome. Source bias, yeah, that's true, not financial advice. Most sources, Charisma magazine, House of Destiny, are aligned with Clement's ministry and may interpret events to fit his prophecies. Independent verification of fulfillments is limited, and some prophecies, for example, energy independence, echo broader political sentiments rather than unique predictions. 2025 status as of July 6, 2025. Some events, Trump inauguration, energy policy shifts, are in early stages, and it's unclear if they will fully align with Clement's vision. The death to debt, quote unquote, and currency shift prophecies remain anticipatory, with no concrete evidence of widespread wealth increases yet. Okay, now let's quickly add, what about a broad spectrum? like 2025 to 2050.